integrated Olvy. Basically, we had feedback on Google Docs and Google Sheets. We had feedback on Slack. We had feedback on Notion. We had feedback on HubSpot. And there was no process or structured way to basically collect and analyze and use feedback in the whole organization. So it was a very distributed data. Basically, it was a pain each time we needed to use some feedback or to collect or to analyze or even to share feedback.
Robin, thank you so much for joining in. We have been talking for a long time now, and thanks for being there in the initial days for Olvy and taking out time for doing this case study. Just to begin with a little bit, right? My first question to you would be can you briefly describe your role at Together.do?
The head of product at Together.do. Well, basically the product team used to be only me, so it was very simple to be head of product then. Now I'm starting to construct product team. Otherwise, my role is basically to build, launch, and improve our product, which started initially as a Tinder for brands. Basically, we were like the intermediary solution between two brands that wanted to look for a partner for acquisition purposes. And now we focus a lot more on the synergy between brands and making possibilities for one brand to basically buy visibility from another. And when I mean visibility, it's also buy visibility, but also almost buy customers, basically integrating with all the day-to-day tools an e-merchant or an online brand would use, such as classic CRMs and obviously tools like Shopify.
Sounds good. Here comes one of the biggest question, which is, how would you describe the importance of user feedback in your product development process?
Oh, it's vital. I mean, it's definitely critical because on several levels, actually. It's vital because we are a very early stage solution, so basically we spent almost the past year talking to our users. We have a very engaged base of 200-300 users that basically give us a lot of feedback. So we have always this data basically entering the company and my workflows. And it's also very product relevant data because we are launching new features, we are testing out monetization, we are testing out growth hacking within the product, we are testing out. It's so wide that we need to collect basically feedback about all of this. And it's definitely critical to have a very structured way to handle all of it.
What does, before implementing Olvy, what are the main challenges you faced in collecting and analyzing user feedback?
Well, I actually kind of cheated because I almost integrated Olvy when I started in the company. But yeah, before we integrated Olvy, basically we had feedback on Google Docs and Google Sheets. We had feedback on Slack. We had feedback on Notion, we had feedback on HubSpot, and there was no process or structured way to basically collect and analyze and use feedback in the whole organization. So it was a very distributed data and also very badly used. We had not a structured way to do it. So mainly we were looking for the information at the time we needed it, but it was very complicated to basically gather all this information from the various sources I talked about before. Basically, it was a pain each time we needed to use some feedback or to collect or to analyze or even to share feedback because basically we had something in mind and we did not remember where it was basically.
Right. So what integrations are you currently using to extract feedback from?
So we're using Slack because my basically commercial part of the business would input directly client feedback from Slack. We also use obviously Linear because we need Olvy to communicate with Linear to make feedback into relevant tasks and to have linear issues basically carrying out the user information. And obviously we get a lot of feedback from the widget integration directly on our app. So the main sources would be today Slack and the widget.
How has Olvy influenced your product development decision or any strategy?
As it gave us a channel to basically aggregate all the feedback, it made us more sure of what we're doing is actually something the user wants. And obviously, as I said, as the linear issues carry out all the feedback information, we tend to have a better developer view of what the client actually wants or actually does on a daily basis. So that's one. And obviously the second one is, now that we have like this aggregation of all the feedback, we can basically prioritize based on the number of times an issue has been raised by the users. So I would say that these two are the most striking points to me.
Before implementing Olvy, how many man hours did you typically allocate, weekly or monthly, for feedback management and analysis?
In terms of weekly hours, probably 5 to 6 hours maybe. But one of the key points is that it was also hours on people that should have been doing other stuff. Basically, it was the co-founders, basically trying to collect this data and analyze it. Mainly what it allowed us to do is that we save time for basically two of the co-founders that had a lot of user interview and client interview.
And since integrating Olvy, have you noticed a decrease in the time spent on feedback analysis? If yes, can you quantify or estimate the time saved?
For individual feedback, for sure.
Yeah.
Our feedback luckily got way bigger since.
Yeah.
So the point is more that Olvy allowed us to scale basically on feedback integration and analysis. I would say we take almost the same time, but we have like maybe 10 times more feedback than what we used. So in that regard, Olvy has been very valuable.
Has Olvy's feedback-driven insight led to any product improvements that resulted in, let's say, any revenue growth or any enhanced user retention or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially we've had like several major improvements that came from Olvy. I mentioned the feedback widget. But yeah, especially on very sometimes on bugs that we did not see. But in most cases, it was like mainly related to clarity of basically the wording on our platform, the way we orchestrated a specific flow that was not understood by users. So yeah, definitely we had a lot of very valuable feedback from it.
Which specific feature of Olvy stand out most for you and why?
If I used it correctly, I think the coolest one would be like releases, because I think it's definitely a game changer, because basically I like that AI does my own work.
Okay, perfect.
And I love it. Yeah.
Would you be comfortable showing us a brief walkthrough of how you typically use Olvy for feedback management?
There are mainly two channels for us to use Olvy. As I said, it would be direct user feedback from the widget, or one very, very frequent use is also like Jonathan, one of the co-founders, that talked to a lot of users. So he would just get off from a meeting and write me like a whole lot of feedback he got from the meeting. And basically the way I would do it is just like add my quick Slack integration, add my Olvy, my little Olvy emoji, and then I would start like putting it into linear from Olvy, and basically distribute all this feedback into projects that are already created or to create new projects. So that would be the key use of Olvy for me.
That's pretty much it, man. I mean, this is exactly what we wanted to know, and I think this will be like super helpful for our audience to also know like how other companies are using and how you are using the product. So yeah, thanks for joining in.
My pleasure.